I was like, wow, the AI was literally lying that the test cases are passing, and the way it was passing the test cases by creating exceptions for each employee. Whatever we used to build like 2 years ago in 1 month, that can be more or less built by the AI these days in 2 or 3 shots. So they are getting wrong validation by using the wrong tool to build their product. Instead, they should use these tools, and everyone should use these tools to build their POCs. And at the end of the day, when things start falling apart, everyone will blame those human engineers. No one is going to sue OpenAI or any big models for $20 subscription. Now, these days, this entire business model is disrupted. Why? Because the cost of building POCs and MVPs has reduced to almost zero. It's been over 4.5 years that I started DriveSeat, which is a digital transformation and product development company. And now that I look back and I see how we were able to grow the company and how we were able to get the business, is because there was demand in the market. People had some ideas and they wanted to build them. So they sometimes self-funded, sometimes they pooled some funds, and they just went on and hired us to build their ideas. And most of the time, these engagements started with some MVPs or POCs. MVPs are like minimum viable products, and POCs are like proof of concepts. Their goal was to see if they can build something and make a business out of it. Some of our very good customers self-funded their ideas, and they turned those ideas into multi-million-dollar businesses, and we are super proud of them. The way these engagements used to work with most founders was they used to collect their ideas, create well-defined documents and well-defined requirements from them, and then used to experiment with a fixed scope in a limited budget. They wanted to make sure they can build something and validate their ideas in this fixed amount of budget. And because they had a budget in mind, they were very careful with what they wanted to build. So they used to carefully plan the whole thing, maybe had some consultancy with us, and we suggested some plans to them that, okay, this is how we can do it in this amount of time and this amount of budget, and then let's start work. And then most of our customers entered into the entrepreneurship because of this route, because they engaged with us and many companies like us. So they engaged with companies like us, built their ideas, got some success, and then they moved on to the next steps. Now, these days, this entire business model is disrupted. Why? Because the cost of building POCs and MVPs has reduced to almost zero. And I actually mean zero, or maybe $20 per month. So why is that? Like, these current AI models are so advanced, like Opus 4.6, Codex 5.3, and 5.4. They are so advanced that the scope of a POC or an MVP can be built in a one shot. So you can define all of your requirements, you can define all of your features, everything you want the product to do. Anything that should be part of an MVP, which is like a minimum viable product, you should have minimum features in the product. The product should be able to launch in the market relatively bug free. So if that was the scope of your MVP, whatever we used to build like 2 years ago in 1 month, that can be more or less built by the AI these days in one shot, if not one, then 2 or 3 shots. Now that entire business model seems to be disrupted now. Now any founder who needs to build their ideas, who need to test out if whatever they have in mind can be built into a product, they can just do that. They can just buy a $20 subscription of Codex or Cloud Code and try to play that around in the IDEs and just get a product out of it. Sure, they would have some issues in deploying that product, but they can also use Replit for that. Or maybe they can hire someone to just deploy it and launch it to the market. But I mean, they could save a huge cost by just using these tools. So the entire business model of building MVPs and POCs is basically disrupted, or you just have to adopt your business model to it. Now, I think, based on my recent observation, that even though that's actually a good thing, that the founders are going to save a bunch of cost, it's actually proving to be very bad for everyone, especially for those founders. Because previously, whenever someone had ideas, they used to spend significant amount of time on making sure they are building the right thing, or they are defining the features appropriately. And then once we built the features for them, once we built the MVP for them, they had the conviction. Their conviction was stronger because they had spent some amount of money on that product development. They had spent like a month or 2 months in making sure the product is launchable. But right now, the conviction has reduced so much because they are single shotting their ideas. They have some idea, they just single shot it and launch it, and it works, and they get the quick dopamine surge that, okay, this looks nice. But since it did not take them enough amount of time and effort to build that idea, they don't put enough amount of time in marketing that idea, in taking that to the market, doing the user acceptance testing. The dopamine surge is so high and so quick that they just move on to the next one. They feel the validation in just single shotting their ideas instead of actually building a production ready product, which is extremely bad. The instant gratification of single shotting their ideas is actually killing their motivation and actually killing their need to even market their idea. And that was never how these products used to ever get successful. The products are never successful because they are good products. Most of the products are successful because they are marketed in the right way, because customers spend significant amount of time talking to the end users and seeing what they can build for them, how they can build a good enough product for them. But right now, if we feel that this entire industry is disrupted, it's not that we are seeing more products launched in the market and being actively used by products. We just see a lot of people building a lot of stuff and not even launching it because they had some idea. Instead of actually putting an effort in marketing them or launching them to the users, the instant gratification and the quick dopamine surge of single shotting their ideas is just killing their motivation to actually launch the products to the market. And then there is another angle to it. Most of these AI companies are marketing their models as on par with senior level engineers. They are marketing their products as something that can build the best software out there, and they are publishing these news articles that the software industry will be disrupted, that we will not need software engineers in the next few months, or the software engineering will be solved. They are marketing it, and it's their right to do the marketing for their product. Nothing wrong with that. But most new founders who are not very tech savvy just take that marketing message word by word, and then they try and go ahead and single shot their idea. And maybe the first version works, and maybe the next iteration, the next prompt also works and build that idea. But after that, they are unable to add the complex features in the product. So now what happens is they feel like, okay, this idea is not even technically possible. I don't even need to spend more effort. I don't even need to contact any professional to build this idea. And then they end up dropping that idea. So they are getting wrong validation by using the wrong tool to build their product. Instead, they should use these tools, and everyone should use these tools to build their POCs, to build their MVPs, and see if those POCs and MVPs are working and if it is what they are looking for. And if not, they should contact some professional and see if they can help them out, take it to the next step. But that's not what most people are doing right now. Even though these models are very, very good at building the product ideas, building the initial versions of the product ideas, even launching the whole end-to-end products, but there are still some things where they just stuck, and without human intervention, it's nearly impossible to just take them to the finish line. I tried building this Chrome extension a few weeks ago, and I posted about it on LinkedIn as well. So this is a very, very basic Chrome extension. Like, I'm using it on daily basis for my own personal use, but it's launched so you get OTPs on your email, and instead of going to the email, you can just right click and get the OTP on the same page. Basic stuff. So I built this Chrome extension, and I was amazed that with a few prompts I was able to get it working. But then I wanted to launch it. So when you are going to launch it, you have to add more features that more people would be requesting for. And one of those features that I needed was support for multiple accounts. So I was like, okay, let's try this out. I added support for connecting your multiple Google accounts, and then it stopped working altogether. I tried many things, many iterations. I even asked it to tell me if I need to change anything on the Google Cloud project. It did not. I mean, I had a lot of back and forth. Then I had to go in and manually fix that, and then it started working, and now it's launched, and all of these features are supported. If I was not technical, then I would have given up at that step. Then I wouldn't even know what's the right way. I would have assumed that, okay, this is not even possible. This is a restriction from Google or from Codex. So that was the limitation that I faced. Now, another recent example that I tried solving for our company was I used Codex, and I tried solving the accounts for the company, because every company have their own requirements, their own different metrics of how they do the payroll. So we have our own process. It's very, very manual. Like, we have accountant, and they calculate the salaries per person every month, because there are many data points in the salaries, like bonuses, some deductions, some reimbursement, and some additional expenses and stuff like that. So the tax amount changes every month, and then the disbursement changes every month as well. So I tried solving that with the help of AI. I gave it some of the data and asked it to just assume the formulas from the data and come up with something. I tried a few prompts, and it built this very, very beautiful dashboard, and I was able to do a lot of things with it, and I was super amazed. I even cross matched the values from the actual sheet and with the data I was able to see on the dashboard, and it all worked beautifully well. And I could see the values matching, and I even asked the AI to write test cases first. So I was doing the test-driven development route. So I first asked it to build the algorithms that can calculate taxes and everything, and then go ahead and build the dashboard. So it started failing some test cases, which was a validation that okay, it's actually going the right way because it's failing the test cases. So then I asked it to fix those test cases one by one, and it started fixing those test cases. And once most of them passed, I asked it to okay, now convert this into a dashboard, and it fixed those test cases, and it built them into a dashboard. And I was like surprised, and I was like, great, I'm a genius, I built this dashboard and it's going to solve this huge problem of mine. So I built that, and then a few days ago, just yesterday, I guess, I was playing around with it, and I was like, okay, let's actually try to create a new test payroll and see if that works. So I did that, and surprisingly, the calculations started failing. Like the calculations weren't matching the actual sheets. So I was like, what's wrong? And I figured out that the AI had some data pre-populated from the sheets as exceptions, and most of the data was added in the exceptions. So it was just trying to pass all the test cases by creating exceptions for each employee. I was like, wow, like the AI was literally lying that the test cases are passing, and the way it was passing the test cases by creating exceptions for each employee. At this stage, now I know that okay, like my one-shotting method, my AI only approach did not work. Now I need to manually get into it and fix the formulas and understand the accounts a bit better as well. So like even if these tools can make you feel like you can build great tools, which you 100% can, but not without the supervision of some engineers, someone who has deep understanding of how the things work behind the scenes. Because there are people from the big technology companies, like there is a guy I follow in LinkedIn, Adi Usmani. He's a Google Cloud AI director. So he recently posted something which was very, very beautiful, and it was about comprehension debt. It means when you use these tools to write so much of your code, when you use these tools to build your whole product, then what happens when no one in the team, no human engineer is able to comprehend all of that code, is able to understand majority of that code? And then what happens when things start falling apart? What happens when you need to have human engineer look into the code and try to fix problems, but then humans cannot work and think at the speed of computers? It's going to be very, very hard and significantly time taking for any human to just go in and fix those issues instantly, because any human engineer will require their onboarding time. Previously, we used to have tech debt where we used to write code in a certain way, and then as the time passed, we felt like, okay, these technical practices, these practices that we used are not good enough, so we will fix them later on. And then there were a lot of human minds that were part of the development process. So they had this context in their mind, and then later on they used to fix it. But with the comprehension debt, the problem is way bigger, because now we have this tool, this super engineer, this super smart and sometimes dumb engineer that writes a bunch of code, that pushes feature like at the speed of light, at like 5,000 lines per day kind of speed, or thousands of lines per hour kind of speed. We have this super engineer that's producing a lot of code, producing a lot of features, and the executives are super happy that this engineer is brilliant, he's genius, he's pushing out the features that we requested in the last meeting, and we can test them out right now. But they don't know that this super engineer is creating a lot of debt, creating something that is incomprehensible by their actual human engineers. And at the end of the day, when things start falling apart, everyone will blame those human engineers. No one is going to sue OpenAI or any big models for $20 subscriptions that your model wrote the bad code and now our production is down. Everyone is going to go after that human engineer who was seemingly in charge of the code base, who was mostly using AI, who was forced to use AI to produce more amount of work, and he will be answerable for something that was broken by something that was pushed by AI. And now that guy is unable to fix that problem because he was not very much involved in the code. So I mean, it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma that we are facing right now. It has its pros, it has its cons. Time will tell. So the best course of action for founders, for builders, for entrepreneurs is to use AI to their maximum capacity, but care about thoughtful adoption. not aggressive, not rapid, but thoughtful adoption. So we need to push out this message more, and we need to be more open about things that are actually working and things that are not working. Because seemingly on social media, only the magical things get attention. Whenever someone posts that I built this thing in like one night, that thing will get so much attention. But if someone will post that I tried this and it did not work and there are so many issues with this, they will say, okay, it's a skill problem. Like it's a skill issue. You don't know how to do it. There are people who can do it. So I think the time will tell. But till then, let's just care about thoughtful adoption and see where all of this goes. So best of luck.